Welcome viewers to round 5 action here of the official V8 Supercar Championship Series, brought to you by Motorsport TV in conjunction with iRacing. We are here at the wonderful Sebring circuit for 30 laps of intense action. We've limited their fuel cell, so they're going to have to pit in this race sometime around that midway, about 13 to 14, so it's going to be interesting today. Joining me in the commentary box tonight is Johnny Simon. Johnny, welcome to the broadcast.
Thanks, Jay. Good to be here once again for another race this season around the beautiful Sebring International Raceway. We've got a lot of different difficult corners here. You look at curb usage, the bumps. It's going to be an interesting one here today for these drivers.
Yeah, that it is, and the track temp is 37 degrees as we are in qualifying at the moment. Just on board with Bo Cubas here in the number 2 car for KSW Painting and SDC Motorsports. He is coming around turn 13, coming up to Bishop Corner, turn 14 here. So long lap here. It's about a 2-minute lap here, Johnny, and makes it really hard for qualifying. You've got to be very precise of where you want to put the car with the technical corners around this layout.
Yeah, and Bo really needs to maximize their track width over here on the run down the long Holden straight. You'll get a good run out of here onto the throttle as early as you can, but qualifying is pivotal. You don't want to start You do not want to start down the order here at Sebring, because it gets very tight as the drivers form up into sector 1 at the start of the race. So you're not going to make up too many positions at, let's say, a track such as Monza.
Yeah, especially going into turn 1, it's you have to be up front, and in this sort of race you're going to want to do that. And Bo Cubas coming along the line here at a 2:01.9, so that's very quick for the weather, and at the moment he's a 10th up on Sam Sutton as the first time start to come in. So 2 laps here for everyone, and be looking out for Ethan Griggold, Ian Ford and Josh Rogers. They are the pace men for this series, as well as Bo Cubas, so look for them to jump up the order when they get their laps in at the moment. I did see Ethan have a little bit of a mistake on his opening out lap, but he looks alright at the moment. Just having a look now as more times come in, but that gap between the top 2 is only a 10th, and then they got about half a second to George Maris in 3rd, who hasn't been in this official series for a while now.
Yeah, it gives them a little bit of time to warm up to it, these sessions. Nerves build up occasionally as a driver in qualifying. You feel legs shaking, but I mean, that's the trick of the trade, is to really calm yourself down, and that just goes to show you have the passion for what you do here in sim racing. But George Maris under braking for the hairpin here at turn 7. We're using the full layout today, which in my opinion shouldn't be used, but nevertheless we can't change that. There's a lot of curb usage here today that needs to be used. You'll see George Maris travel through this section of the racetrack. It's very bumpy, using the cones as the brake markers, and he starts to trail brake a little bit there. It might have cost him a little bit of time, I think, Jake. He's gone a little bit tight there into turn 10.
Yeah, just running in a bit too deep and hot under brakes there, but he got it turned in, still managed to make the corner, but he would have lost a little bit of time there. And while we were looking on board with George Maris, Ian Ford has punched it straight into the top position right now, 2:01.811, so a good opening lap there from Ian Ford to punch his little ticket out, and I don't think he's even going to continue on a second lap as Ethan Griggold goes to 2:01.864. This top 4 right now, or top 5, separated by less than 0.2 of a second. That is close.
Yeah, good to see Ethan Griggold punching in some ripper lap times there. So 2:01.8. So as the rubber builds into the racetrack, we should see a couple more times fall within that 2:01.7 barrier. Let's see if someone could set a 0.6. That'd be impressive. But only 2 laps for qualifying. You don't get any more than that. As Griggold finds that brake marker under braking for the hairpin. It's really challenging in qualifying. As I said, you start to lose that muscle memory from practice. I know some of these drivers say they don't practice. They do practice. And the thing is that you essentially come into a race with the muscle memory of where your braking points are, the turning points, and when you get nervous, that your mind's ruined. You become less consistent.
Yeah, that's right, and especially here, everyone's going to be practicing. We have the V8 Supercar Online Premier Series on the weekend here at this exact same track, so a lot of these boys will be wanting to get a lot of practice in. So if they come up and say they don't want to practice or they haven't had any practice, that's a complete lie, because they've been practicing hard for this week and they want to have a good car for the weekend. And just looking on board, Josh Rogers actually hasn't done a lap at the moment. He's down in, I think, 20th position without a time. He's got 40 odd seconds to get across the line, so I think he may just make it across the line, Johnny, but he'll want to be up in that pointing end, and if he doesn't get a good lap, if he had an off track, he could ultimately start from well down the field.
Yeah, is this a lap time he's on right now? Because if he starts a lap, I don't think he's going to have time to really complete one at all. So if he crosses the line now, I don't even know if this is his full or out lap right now. He crosses the line. No, that is a lap time, excuse me. A 2-minute 1.820 up onto the front row alongside Ian Ford. What a lap from Josh Rogers. And that will be his only lap in qualifying so far.
Yeah, wow, 9 thousandths of a second separates the top two, and that is it for qualifying. So we will run you through the results here for round 5 action of Sebring. And Ian Ford, 9 thousandths of a second over Josh Rogers on the front row alongside him. Ethan Griggolt with his teammate Bo Cubis on row 2. Mitchell Searlack in 5th with Sam Sutton 6th. Paul Gorell, good result for him in 7th with Kane Kugamiya 8th. George Maris in 9th and Jason Bentz rounding out the top 10. Todd Parks in 11th with Hyde in 12th. Al Wood wouldn't be looking good in 13th, as well as Corey Preston on the outside of row 7, Brenton Hobson in 15th and Jeff Gauci in 16th, Dale Niche in 17th with Matt Jones in 18th, Sean Evans 19th and Gabriel Perez, first time racer here, in 20th. Mario Vasic and Cooper Murray not having a qualifying time down there. That'll be interesting for Cooper Johnny. He's usually up at the pointy end and he'll be fighting his way through this field, I think, quite vigorously, especially with the strategy with the pit stop.
Yeah, a little bit of fun, a little bit of motivation too for him. So a lot of drivers do that. They love starting from the back of the field, and you can just trundle away into the points, hopefully for him in the top 10 at least.
Yeah, that's what he'll be looking to get out of this one, a good solid points position today, and especially looking for the weekend. I think that's what a lot of these guys are looking for, and it shows with the top 6 only separated by 0.2 of a second. That's nothing in these cars, and it just shows the quality of a field, and we could be in for an interesting race, Johnny.
Yeah, as you said, so we're waiting for the lights to go green soon enough. In just about 30 seconds time, we'll see the nerves build up as usual, and you just really have to make sure everything's set up for the race in terms of fuel, all that kind of stuff, and you'll be going away, ripping away across the line, trying to scream into that first fast sweeping corner. It's really important to have the inside line into there, Jake, to set yourself up for the first braking zone at turns 2 and 3.
Yeah, that's right, and as the cars will start to form up now, we'll hear the revs build any minute now. 78 litres their fuel tank is limited to, so they're definitely going to have to make a pit stop in this 30 lap race. So we're just waiting here for the lights to go on, and we'll be ready for a start any minute now. A lot of the guys taking their time here, and it's just waiting game. Well, the nerves, and they are away, so green flag. And it's a great start there from Ian Ford. He's got away. So is Ethan Griggolt in the second row of the grid. He's going to maybe be alongside Josh Rogers for turn 1. He's going to be on the outside though, not the line he was looking for. So he drops in behind him. He may be able to get a switch back, but I don't think he's going to have it. There's a couple of cars sideways in the background. A little bit of carnage going on back there, but hopefully everyone's made it through. As I think that was Mitchell Searlack on the dirt in the ANZ car. He's managed to regather it, not hit Sam Sutton behind him, but the first couple of cars, it's all on for young and old up front already.
Yeah, Searlack had a great getaway across the line, gained a position, but then on the exit of turns 1 and 2, he just lost traction and the rear end started to step away from him. He did save the car, but he lost 2 positions as a result. So now he's down to 6th in a total net position gain of -1. Gives a little tap there to Sam Sutton at the hairpin too. So Searlack, who had a promising getaway, does not have a good complete start to the race.
Yeah, just ran a little bit wide and he just lost that spot, but he will be able to get that back. He'll settle into a nice position. He definitely has the paces looking back there. I think that was a move. It's Kane Kugamiya on George Maris. Maris in the old ANZ livery. Haven't seen that one for a while. It's a similar car if Kane Kugamiya gets around him. So Maris starting to drop down a couple of positions here. He started in 9th. Actually, he's still in 9th. I think he would be a little bit further back than that when the timing sheets resets itself. And he's got Jason Hyde behind him for Performance Motorsport. So he'll be looking to get a good gain. He had some pace this week, Jason, and he will be looking to make up some positions early on the start, and as he has Richard Elwood behind him.
Yeah, and he's trying to set up George Maris here for that 9th position. I think he actually is in 9th, but he gets all 4 wheels onto that curb there. It unsettles the car, and he's not going to really fall into the clutches of Elwood behind. So Hyde here is just going to settle for a top 10 sort of position right now as Ian Ford and Rogers battle for the lead. 0.2 the gap between the both of them.
Yeah, this gap right now is already on. These two have had some coming together every season, every race we see it, but here comes Rogers. He is right in that draft. He's sticking right underneath that rear wing. He could be going around as we've had Maris hit the wall on the final corner, but he's okay. And oh, Ford, he's sticking his nose down the inside into turn one. Sorry, on Rogers, on Ford. And he's going to still keep it there. He may have another look. He's still got the nose there. He's done well down into turn three here. Oh, a little bit of contact there between Rogers and Ford. They've managed to keep it or both on the track, but look who's behind them, the SDC cars of Cubis and Ethan. They want in on this, and Sam Sutton also coming in. This is awesome action out front.
Yeah, and here's Greg Gold as well, giving a little bit of a bump draft to Rogers as they fight towards the hairpin. Greg Gold having a look, and so is Rogers too.
Yeah, Rogers deep under brakes, a little bit of a lock brake there from Ian Ford on the outside, but he's going to have a better traction run. He may not be able to hold the position though on Rogers around the outside. He's going to try, and he may just have the nose there. No, he doesn't, so he's had to drop in behind him, but this is all on already. Coming into turn 10, Ford having another look as Sam Sutton's having a look on Sealak behind them. It is all on up front, and that's Sealak sideways. He got into Sutton. There's a couple of cars around. I think he hit his teammate Kane Kugamia.
Yeah, so they're in the wall, and they do not rejoin the racetrack with traffic. Oh, that's close there with Sealak, almost collecting a few cars. So a terrible way to rejoin the racetrack. That should be a 50 race ban right there. But as Rogers now and Greg Gold fight, where's Ian Ford? Down to P4.
He dropped.
So
he ran off track.
He's dropped a lot of...
Yeah, sorry Johnny, he ran off track at turn 13 and he's rejoined and lost a lot of ground, so he's lost that position that he had, and he's let Rogers, Ethan and Bo Cubis go through, and now he's got Sam Sutton behind him, so just a little mistake there from 40 under pressure, and look at the time he's lost now.
Yeah, so Ian Ford just... this is a great test of mental concentration, because you're very heated as a driver sometimes if you can't control your concentration in this situation. The last thing you want to do is think about how many positions you've lost. You need to look at the lap chart and say, hey, there's 28 laps remaining. I've got a lot of time to catch back up to the leader, Josh Rogers. He just needs to make his way through on Greg Gold and Cubis. The interesting note here is that if Ford is held up by Greg Gold and Cubis and Rogers starts to pull away, that's where it starts to get hair-raising for Ian Ford. He needs to pass these cars in front of him ASAP.
Yeah, well that's right, and the hardest thing for him at the moment is that the pace is so equal between these top 5 cars that he doesn't have that outright pace at the moment, maybe just to get around them, and he's just going to be a little bit on the back foot here, like you're saying. He's just got to try and keep close to the guys in front and not lose them. But Ethan Greg Gold is starting to close up and range up onto the back of Josh Rogers. We know how good Ethan Greg Gold is as we look back at the start here, and it was a great jump from Ethan Greg Gold from the second row of the grid. Got an awesome start. Rogers had to go and block, as well as Mitchell Sealak had a great jump on Bo Cubis from row 3, and just coming down to turn 1, it was all very clean up the front, except for Sealak coming off of turn 1. There was a couple of cars, I think that was Bentz in the background, that had a little bit of a mistake and got into Kane, but Sealak was using all the grass going rallycross style, managed to bring it back on, and it was just a real clean start besides that, but it's just mixed up the field just a little bit.
Yeah, you could say that Sealak, who had a great getaway, you can argue that his tyre temps were up to scratch with a great getaway like that, but in terms of core temperature, when he applies the throttle, it takes at least half a lap to a lap in general in a race car to really build up those core temperatures. So for Sealak, he just didn't have the grip there on the exit of turn 1, and right now he's all the way down the field with to be honest, Jake, one of the most terrible track rejoins I've ever seen. But nevertheless, he'll see if he can fight back through this field. He's got a lot of damage. It is not going to be an easy race for Mitchell Sealak.
Yeah, that's right. And he also, with that terrible rejoin, he took out one of his teammates, Kane Kugamia, also for ANZ. So, and Kane is still in the pit, so he's obviously got troubles with Sean Evans as well. So he won't be happy. I don't think Kane will be too happy with him with the rejoin. So those two boys will most probably be having a little squirrel over that ANZ, but they'll pick their feet up and look forward to the weekend. But out front, Josh Rogers has got a half a second gap over Ethan Greg Gold with his teammate Bo Cubis behind him. Those KSW painting Commodores are just sitting there and just going to be ranging up on the back of the hyper-stimulated Ford Falcon of Josh Rogers anytime soon.
So let's see with these leaders now. There's 2.1 seconds the gap with the top 5. The race has... no one's really broken away as much as at least I would have thought. Maybe Josh Rogers would get a little bit of a run. Now, You can think about the slipstream that can help Ethan Grigalt here, but most of all, sometimes you have the leader as a reference point, sometimes as an adrenaline rush, and when some of these drivers don't put in much practice, as Grigalt here is right onto the back, and he even has a look here at Josh Rogers.
Yeah, he's having a look down the inside. He thought about it and he got it down there. Had a big deep dive on the inside and he nearly got it done. He had to back out of it at the last minute. He is on the attack. He wants to get this position done early. We've got to remember that they were limited to 78 litres at the start of this race, so they will be making a pit stop for about 55 litres. The pit window opens on lap 13, so if I was Ethan, you may want to sit behind him, but obviously he doesn't want to save any bit of fuel. He wants to get going and try and pull away from the field.
Yeah, and as I was saying before, some drivers come in with a bit of a lack of practice. You can use the leaders here as Josh Rogers as reference points as to where to turn in, braking points, how fast you need to go, and sometimes that can literally be your practice. And I'm sure, I've spoken to a lot of drivers who have done that before. It really helps them out. But Grigalt here is very, very close. It's important under braking to not give a tap to Josh Rogers. He's alongside him here into the final corner, and they should be alongside each other across the main straight too.
Yeah, here we go, it is on. Oh, he just couldn't get the power down, especially over those bumps. The rear end of the car gets very light there, especially with the way these cars handle, and he managed just to get a little bit of oversteer and couldn't get the drive, and he's fallen back in behind. He's got to remember Cubis is behind him, that's his teammate. He'll be wanting Ethan to get around him as quickly as possible. We know Cubis has pace, and if Cubis can get around him, he won't hesitate to have a little look at Rogers, but Ethan definitely isn't hesitating himself. But these 5 Cortetta cars, it's led by a TTL car, and it's finalised by a TTL car of Sam Sutton in 5th, who is just sitting around there behind Ian Ford at the moment.
So Sam Sutton's playing that patient game. You got 4 cars in front of you. It's a little bit of, not frustration, but I find it sometimes you're in a world of patience, just waiting for them to fight and have them reel themselves back into you rather than the other way around. As Rogers here side by side with Grigalt.
Yeah, side by side, Rogers made a little mistake into the hairpin and he locked a front right brake and he ran wide, and Ethan was able to get the drive out, but Rogers again, good defence there. He had the inside line for turn 10, managed to get it done. And he's, oh, who's that in the grass? It's Ian Ford. Oh, he was sideways, nearly hit Sam Sutton as he rejoined the track. He's managed to hold it together and not hit anyone. He's lost a whole bundle of time there, and he's just going to have to claw his way back, which is not going to help the tyres at all.
Yeah, he got a little bit tail happy there, rejoined nice and easily for him. So he's still in the 5th position, but in terms of calming yourself down and bringing those tyres back up to ideal temperature, or back down to ideal temperature, because he was all sideways through there. There was 1.8 seconds back on that top 4 group. I think if they keep battling out front, all Ian Ford needs to do here is just drive as consistently and safely as he can. You don't need to drive faster to make up the top 4 positions, because they'll essentially drop back into you the more they fight.
Yeah, that's right, and this top 4 look like they're going to be fighting for this entire race, so he sort of has that on his upper hand where he can just sit there and just run a nice conservative part of this race before his pit stop, because he may just want to try and save some fuel here if he can in that position, just to get a little bit of an undercut. The undercut will work here in this track temp of 37 degrees. He will definitely be able to get a good undercut if he comes in on the earliest stage of the pit window, but then ultimately his tyres will start to wear out towards the end. But out in front, we definitely have Ethan Grigalt still harassing the back of Rogers. Rogers has made 2 mistakes coming down into turn 7 hairpin here for the past 2 laps, and it's given Ethan Grigalt a little bit of a chance to have a look, and he has done. I wonder how Rogers is going to take it this time. He looks very good under brakes again. Ethan's stronger again under brakes. He always is. He always has been. And just a little bit of a right front lock there from Rogers, but he was able to get around with no mistakes. And maybe he's just starting to get into a rhythm now, Johnny.
So people think that turn 7 hairpin is the only overtaking spot, and then turn 10 is another overtaking spot. Sometimes as a driver, you identify them as setup points, so where you set drivers up for overtake. So if you can just force someone offline into the turn 7 hairpin, you can set the other driver up, into an overtake into the turn 10 corner there. So it's something to think about for Ethan Grigalt, as Rogers doesn't make a mistake there this time around, is if he can just attack and just poke the car up the inside or around the outside and force Rogers defensive when he doesn't need to, then that could really help Grigalt. But so far, he hasn't been able to claim that lead. on a pass into turn 10, so he's got to think to do it around about the final corner here, but he does not get a good run this time around, although the slipstream will help him gain a couple of tenths across this Ullman straight.
Yeah, he didn't get a good run out of Le Mans, and he's now just a little bit further back. He will be in the draft, but he needs to fill up those mirrors of Rogers and like you were saying, get him a little bit unsettled, make him run the defensive line a couple of times, and just put him on the back foot than what he really needs to be. It's only lap 7 as they cross, or only starting at lap 7 when they cross the line of a 30-lap race here, so there's still a long way to go, and Ethan's going to be harassing the back of Rogers up until that pit stop, and that's the thing, we've got to keep remembering the pit stop strategy here. It's interesting to see these guys are still really bunched, and I wasn't expecting that at all when we came here, and I was expecting a bit more of a gap, so to see what these guys do with the strategy may just change it up, and definitely will let it play out towards the end, and it'll see who will have the better quality of tyres, especially in this mid-run, who starts to wear them out now, and if they start to wear out them now, they may not make it to the end if they come in early.
Yeah, and you look at the final corner as well, a fast sweeping right-hander, and then the first corner is the opposite, a fast sweeping left-hander. So in terms of the front tires on this car, they are going to take a beating out here today, because this track has a lot of bumps too, so lockups under braking are very easy to occur, and you try to really ossify the effect of tire wearing. You try to stagnate the fact that your tires are going to wear throughout this event, so you tend to drive smoothly. You try to, as Greg Galt has a terrible run out of turn 10 here, you really try to manage those as best you can, but yeah, you have the pit stop, so it's important to really to fight through that. Yeah,
that's right. You just gotta, I think it's the thing that these guys behind, especially Cubis and Sutton, will be managing their tyre wear at the moment. They have been in the best position since the start of this race. Yeah, they're not out in front, but he's definitely got the good position at the moment to see where he's at and try and figure out what they can do with their strategy. They may be a little bit behind the 8 ball at the moment, being not P1 and 2, but they can definitely sit there, manage their tyre life and quality, and it's just a little bit of a thing that they can do. They've lost a bit of ground to Ethan Grigott and Josh Rogers this time by, but if he can just get it done, he may be able to have a look here. He's a bit closer now. If he can get this run going through turn 17, this long right-hand sweeper coming onto the front straight, a lot of bumps, and he's done a good job there. They both use all the exit road and a little bit more, and he may have a look down into turn 1, but he thinks better of it and just sits behind him at the moment.
Yeah, and this didn't work out well for Ian Ford, who's 2.2 seconds behind Sam Sutton. I don't know if those tyres took him from his half spin, as Greg Galt thought he went off the racetrack before. I was laughing before because I said it. I thought he went upside down for a little bit, but he didn't. Nevertheless, Greg Galt right now, he's missed the apex there. You notice that's going to cost him on the run down to the hairpin, and he can't really set up Rogers now to go offline. So Rogers is going to have it easy this lap unless he makes an unforced error. Look for those cones in the braking zone as usual. You're really braking at those third cones as Josh Rogers very, very sliding a lot under in the traction zone too. So for Josh Rogers now, even in the unforced errors, he's still making them.
Yeah, it looks like that TTL car is not what he wants, as Ethan has a big look down the inside into turn 10. He's got the nose under there and he's going to get this one done, but Rogers again holding it really strong around the outside, so he does a good job there. He has the inside line for 11 and 12 and he's able to hold on once again, so Ethan maybe has to think, I can't get him there. He has better traction around that part of the track, but he doesn't coming out of turn 7, and he's all over. He is right underneath that rear wing. He's actually having a look through Bishops here. He thinks better of it and loses a little bit of ground. He could have maybe had an attack at turn 15, but he backed out of it a bit too early there. But Ethan Grigott definitely looks like he has a car. As Bo Cubis, I think he had a curb hop there and has lost a lot of time, and he's had to actually drop behind Sam Sutton. Yeah,
so Cubis there with a minor penalty lets him through, and he'll lose one position as a result of that. But Grigott, what he did there into turn 10, he needs to do into turn 7, as you said, Jake. So he needs to set Rogers offline into turn 7 and then make the pass into turn 10 if possible. So it's the point. He needs to get good traction out of turn 5, and we'll look at turn 5 in a little bit. It's that left-hander with the very tight curb on the run on the Big Bend straight. So that's where Greg Galt really needs to set things up. But you can see how overtaking is a game of chess. You have to set things up multiple corners ahead of when you make it, especially when you can't make a pass due to, let's say, a bit of turbulent air or any kinds of traffic involved. You just can't get the traction, grip too. You really have to plan these things out ahead of time.
Yeah, that's right. And again, Ethan was actually a little bit better there. Rogers ran a little bit wide on the exit, and Ethan was able to have a better run coming out of turn 5 as he comes through turn 6, the big bend there, coming down into turn 7, the hairpin. I don't think he's close enough though, but he may be able to fill up the mirrors, and a little wiggle under late braking there from Rogers. It maybe just unsettled the car on the rear brakes, and actually didn't lose too much ground as I would have thought. He got a better traction. So Ethan's just, I don't know, he tries to line him up coming here into turn 10, but he keeps doing that, and it looks like he's really strong at the brakes though in turn 10, and I think that's why he wants to try and get it done there. But Rogers is very good on the acceleration out of there, as Ethan a little wiggle behind him. So a little bit of this tyre wear starting to come in. It is lap 9 and the tyres will start to feel it, and if he can just start to manage this, the pit stop window opens on lap 13, remember, so they could be coming in on lap 13, but you want to try and half this race and come in around lap 15, 16, so you can just mix that tyre wear up so you're not having to push as long as you had to.
And the worst thing as a leader for Josh Rogers is that he does not know if anyone else behind him is going to pit on the same lap as he does. So my point coming here now is, he does pit, no one else in the field does. He could end up in traffic, and that could cost him the first position if Ethan Grigalt stays out. It could also cost him 1 lap less of fresh rubber for the final stint. So this is a very interesting pit phase, and it could shuffle up this grid a little bit more. It could allow guys down the order such as Sam Sutton, Cubis, and Ian Ford too, who made that earlier mistake, to reel themselves back into this battle. Most notably, the top 7 cars here are separated by 7.1 seconds. Good race from George Maris as well, who hit the wall in the early laps. He's up into P7 now.
Yeah, good drive from Maris, and just Mitchell Searlack has actually retired from this race. So obviously that damage from when he had that incident with Kane Kugamiya is too much for him to handle at the moment, so he has had to retire. But that's what I was just about to say, going on your comment with Rogers coming in, and if no one else does, he'll actually come out pretty much behind the field. I don't know whether he'll have much traffic. It's about 37 seconds for a trundle down pit lane. Here or there, it'll be a bit more obviously with the fuel stop because it's 55 litres. That's running off a shorter number. So Rogers may come out really behind the entire field, and if no one else pits and he keeps running the pace he is, he may just get stuck in that sort of the back half of the traffic here. And if he does that, it's not what he's going to want. So he's trying to push out a gap now actually over Ethan Grigalt, which he's doing pretty nicely at the moment.
And what could save that pit time you're speaking about is fuel. So for someone like Ethan Grigalt or the drivers behind who haven't really been leading this race and have been doing a lot of drafting, probably have saved maybe half a lap of fuel at this stage, maybe even more, who knows. So that's a critical factor, is that you need to adjust that in your pit stops if possible. I know it's a very difficult, but if you can really fine tune it to a 0.01 of a leader point, you'd want to make sure you finish across the line as close as you can to running out of fuel, so that you save that little bit of weight. But you know, sometimes setup comes involved here. A lot of drivers set their cars up for a race trim. Sometimes towards the end of a stint, you'll see a couple of drivers picking up pace because their car acts really well with a lighter fuel load and lighter weight. So lots of factors to come into play as we approach 1/3 of the distance during this race.
Yeah, that's right, and especially like in the longer distance with these cars, you have to be very mindful. Yes, your fuel goes down, but also that tyre wear. Like we always mention the tyre wear with these cars, it's a big factor, and if they're managing it really well, as we've got a really good battle going on here from 11th through to 13th. Oh, sorry, my bad. We've got Jeff Gauci, car 11, in 13th with Corey Preston behind him. So Corey really looks like he's struggling, and Jeff Gauci, a new member of ERA in the MPMS Racing Simulator Holden Commodore here with Corey Preston in the 6 booth, Ford Falcon behind him. Corey looks like he's really struggling this week. It wouldn't be a track that he'd like to be struggling at, especially with Premier Series on the weekend. He's got his teammate Dale Niche actually up in front of him in 11th. So Gauci doing a really good job here to hold off Preston at the moment, but as Niche actually runs really wide in front of it, so it could end up being a 3-car battle here from 11th through to 13th.
So Preston up the inside, and he makes his way past Gauci. So I guess conspiracy theories, Niche went off the racetrack, threw up all that gravel, and distracted Jeff Gauci on the exit, and that allowed Corey Preston up into P12. That's called good teamwork right there. Obviously I'm joking around, but that is some good stuff from both of them. As Dale Niche now, if Preston catches his teammate, is he just going to let him through? I think it's just official series race. Go for it and fight. None of the leaders enter the pits, obviously, as we're still waiting for that window to open. You look at the gap between Ford and Cubis, it's 0.8 of a second now, so Cubis falling into the clutches of him, and Greg Gault's also caught up back to Rogers in P1. It's under a second, but as I say that, the gap's sort of oscillating every now and then from under a second to over a second.
Yeah, that gap's sort of fluctuating at the moment. It's dropped off a little bit in the past couple of laps to what Ethan would like. He'd like to be a bit closer, but Rogers looks like he has better tyre life over the distance, and yes, this lap 11, he can maybe sort of play this out towards the end. It's all going to come down to when they pit, and if they pit now and sort of mix it up on lap 13, as Ethan Grigol locked the right front brake there going around the final corner, turn 17, he locked the right front brake, and this is going to leave him very vulnerable to Sam Sutton down the front straight. He's just not going to be close enough, I don't think, Sam. He's going to sit in the draft, though. He may be able to have a little peak going into turn 1, which he does. He just puts the nose out a little bit, really deep under brakes, tries to throw it up to right behind Ethan. He's going to try and line himself up on the switchback coming down into turn 3 here, but I don't think he'll be close enough, but he's definitely going to start to harass the back of Ethan Grigol to try and let his teammate Josh Rogers skip away.
Yeah, he went way too deep into that final corner, and as the tyres start to have less grip, but Sutton with some great rallycross work there, and that completely throws away any chance at passing Greg Gault for P2. As Greg Gault's tyre life reduces, it becomes harder to stop the car in a straight line. We spoke about it here at the hairpin. Rogers it looked like he was sliding out of control under braking, but that's just a lot of the brake bias coming into play, the way you set that up and how aggressive Rogers is under braking. So a lot of drivers are going to struggle at this stage coming towards their pit stop, but as soon as they exit, get the fresh rubber, we're going to see much cleaner driving, which is disappointing. We should have a ban on tires. Maybe we should let them go the whole race on a worn set of tires. That'd make it very interesting, considering these guys already drift on the first lap with a great set of tires. So it's been a great race so far, and I'm looking forward to this pit stop phase.
Yeah, it's been an excellent race so far. I think this is one of the closest ones we've had for a while, the top 6 separated by 6 seconds. It looks like when you come on, Johnny, they like to bunch themselves up. They did at Mid-Ohio, and they're doing it the same again. And yeah, this little thing of this tyre wear, it's one big major factor, and this pit stop phase will definitely open in the next coming laps. So we'll see who's going to blink first. That's the big question right now. Who's going to blink first? Who's going to come in and try and get that undercut? We know the undercut's going to be beneficial to whoever does it. And I think Ethan Grigol, after losing that little bit of time to Josh Rogers, may be the first one to blink and try and get it to work for him. We know he can maybe pick up some ground in the early laps, but who knows? Who knows if Rogers does the same and thinks let's try and cover him off. So it's going to be interesting, as I think that was George Maris behind him being the first one to come in.
Yeah, so Maris in the pit lane. If I was Greg Gault, I don't care about Sutton behind. It's only 1.5 seconds. Just do the opposite of what Josh Rogers does, in my opinion. Rogers pits, you don't pit. If he doesn't pit, you enter the pit lane. So, and don't do it. I had that situation with Pablo Lopez at Montreal once, going into the braking zone for the pit lane, and instead of doing the opposite of what Pablo Lopez did, he entered the pit lane and I bounced over both of the curves and got a slowdown penalty, and I lost about 10 seconds. So definitely don't do what I did, and definitely concentrate on keeping all 4 wheels on the racetrack. So as Maris gets out in the way of his box. So this is interesting to see when Maris feeds out, because he was down the order. He's going to be right around just in front of Gabriel Perez. It'll be very close between the two. So that's interesting now, is I think all the leaders might go out into clean air here, Jay, considering where George Maris has fed out.
Yeah, they may come out into clean air, but at the moment, Bo Cubis, Sam Sutton and Ian Ford, they're not in clear air at all. Bo Cubis was actually able to get the job done on Sam Sutton through the hairpin, and now he's in front, moved up to P3, and we've got Bo Cubis up, Sam Sutton now all over the back, and behind him, Ian Ford has been raging up while these two start to battle, and it could just be where if Ian Ford doesn't want to get caught up in this, he could be the first one to blink at this top 5 and come in now, as the pit window will be open. I think Maris came in a little bit early there, so he may struggle towards the end with the tyres, but we'll see how he sort of has a little bit of a go towards the end. But here comes Rogers now coming around, and this is where we want to see who's coming in first. So Rogers is staying out, Ethan's staying out as well. Let's see this little battle here. We got Cubis, I think, is coming in, as well as Ian Ford. and they're both in the pits. Ian very close under brakes. He actually gained a lot of time there, just pushing it to the limit on the brake limiter right there.
Yeah, and that comes with practice too. So Ian Ford's could actually end up on top of Bo Cubis by the end of this pit phase. He's alongside him as well. I don't know how this is working. Aren't they on a pit limiter here? So I call a bit of conspiracy there. But as Ford enters his box, this is crucial. These pit times here, he wants to get ahead of Cubis. None of this unsafe releases. They're going to try and get away as fast as they can. And let's see how this feeds out for both Ian Ford and Bo Cubis.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see this, as behind them was Richard Aylwood came in, and I think that is Jeff Gauci as well coming down pit lane. So two of the ERA cars are in. It's a long pit stop. Ian Ford out well in front of Bo Cubis. He has gained a lot of time there on Bo Cubis. Maybe a little bit of a short fill there just to get it in and get it done, and he's done that. They've come out obviously in a little bit of clean air, so they've done a really good job. A Ford with a 23.1 pit time and a 24.8 from Cubis, so a good 2 seconds there of time that Ian Ford has made up in the pits, and that could easily put him on the back of Ethan Grigalt when he comes in.
Yeah, no, you know, it's half practice, half a bit of luck with your pit stop, half about which type of settings you use, how you position your car coming into the box. It all comes with practice, so that's a big key right now for the both of these guys.
Yeah, massive key right now, and it's just got to be see where Rogers or Ethan Grigalt comes in. If they stay out this another lap, we've got to remember the undercut here. The undercut is a massive beneficiary here for Ian Ford and Bo Cubis, and I think Sam Sutton will have to sort of copy them, has to follow the leader and come in, but we'll see what Rogers and Ethan do. I think Ethan may come in because he's going to have to, and Rogers in, so leader is in. I think Ethan's going to follow him, and he does, so the two leaders in. I wouldn't be surprised if Sam Sutton does as well. So the top three cars are in, and also Paul Garrell. So let's just have the whole field come in. The top four cars as they cross the line are all in the pits.
Yeah, this is called a pit party, if anybody wants to know. And we have them all the time in every single iRacing series, as they're all searching for their box once again. This is... It's mind-boggling how few drivers think that the pit phase isn't important. It's so important to a race. It can make or break your event. So practice is crucial here, as they're all just waiting for that ultra-long pit stop. Probably the most intense and anticipated part of the race for these drivers, as they sit there doing nothing. You know what though? Where Ian Ford comes out on the main straight is a crucial factor here, as the top two leaders are side by side on the exit.
Yeah, and Ian Ford is coming down the front straight, so this is going to be interesting. Ian Ford will be coming into turn one roundabout now, so he's going to be right there, right behind him, and I said that he gained a good 2 seconds on them, and here he goes. He is in this battle now from P5 up into P3, and Rogers and Ethan Grigalt are right behind each other. This battle is on for the top step of the podium.
He needs to get the move done as quick as he can, because those tyres are a lap older, and if he doesn't get it done now into the hairpin, I'm afraid they could be running away, unless Ian Ford does have better pace. Some drivers revitalize their motivation coming after a pit stop, so let's see if Ian Ford can at least reel these two in front of him back into the clutches of his Holden.
Yeah, that's right, and he could have made a little pressure adjustment on the pit stop. We do remember that. They can make a little pressure adjustment in the pit stop, change their tyre pressures and come out on a better set of rubber, so wouldn't surprise me if Ian Ford did that. He didn't have the pace at the first half that he may have liked, so he could have done a little pressure adjustment, come back out, and now look at him, he's still hanging on there. He would have had a little bit of warmer tyres, obviously, with the extra lap on them, but that's a little bit more wear that he's lost. But Ethan Grigalt already straight on the attack of Josh Rogers. This is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. They have all come in really early. It's only lap 15 of 30, and I think Ethan, just that little bit of gain that he's made, could really start to pressure Rogers and make Rogers do a couple of mistakes that we've seen in the first half of the race.
Yeah, and we don't want this to be a race of attrition either, so we don't want to see Grigalt making silly mistakes such as breaking too deep into a corner, and then that costs him half a second, which, to be honest, in that first stint, he never really seemed to make back up. So the minimal amount of mistakes is crucial here, as Ian Ford is only our second lap leader of the event, so he did lead 1 lap as well, and so is Josh Rogers. Obviously led so many laps because Grigalt just cannot find a way past. So Grigalt trying to join that list of leading a lap. Not that it matters, I'm sure the race win is essentially what matters in the end. The top 3 separated by 0.9 of a second. It's very, very close here on lap 16.
Yeah, it's very close, and it's we haven't seen some good racing for a while. A couple of the last week there was definitely a lot of gap, as Ian Ford actually the last time by set the fastest lap of the race, so maybe a bit of a pressure adjustment there on the tyres, and it looks like it's helping him at the moment because he is definitely in this battle. And Ethan Grigol, looks like he's trying to set the car up for turn 7. He did that, he ran a bit wider entry and tried to get the exit, but Rogers was very clean on that exit, a little bit of dirt, but still managed to get the power down nicely. So Ethan Grigol won't be able to have a look down here. He's definitely stronger under brakes, actually goes really deep under brakes and is going to be right underneath that rear wing of that hyperstimulator Ford. And if he can get the better run, and he's done that again, but like we were saying, Johnny, before, he can't keep having a tap down here at turn 10 because it doesn't pay off, and I think he's going to have another look actually going down under brakes, and he just sits in behind him, but he can't keep doing that.
Yeah, certainly not. So he needs to really do something different. It hasn't worked all race for him. It's not going to work again in his final laps. Here we go, though. Look at the wide line Josh Rogers takes. It's too tight, though, into turn 13. And, wow, so, I mean, I've already spoke about what Greg Galt can do. Now, maybe try and just get a good run onto the Allman Straight and maybe make a pass into Sunset Bend, excuse me. Not Sunset Boulevard, that's at VIR. So, Sunset Bend is a fast sweeping right-hander, and it's still possible to overtake. So right now, this is the crucial corner here on the exit of Le Mans, turn 16, then the Allman Straight. Greg Galt's half a second behind, and it just seems this race, apart from the early laps, a couple of drivers just really haven't been able to get too close into this final corner.
Yeah, that's right. They just haven't been able to get the draft run that they'd like, as Ethan actually really wide in the mid-apex, maybe just trying to avoid those bumps on the inside, but lost a bit of ground just trying to get the run down the front straight. And just having a look behind them, actually, I think Sam Sutton is starting to range up on the back of Bo Cubis here for P4 and 5, and yeah, he did. He gained 8 tenths that last lap, so maybe a little mistake from Sutton, a 202.8 to a 202.0 for Sam Sutton, so 8 tenths of a gain there for Sutton. This battle could be on for the step off the podium. The first one off it will be for P4, but this battle up front, they all were pretty similar. Rogers was 2 tenths faster than Ethan, so that could just start to show that Ethan just needs to settle down, get his rhythm together, and start to just niggle on the back of Josh Rogers. He's made a little bit of mistakes, and if he can do them again, it could just let a little bit of Ethan Grigol just have a little sniff and get him through. As actually he just locked a right front brake there, so there it is, another right front brake lock up on these new set of tyres, so that could just hinder Josh Rogers a little bit.
Yes, minor flat spot, and it can reduce the grip a little bit, and it actually does make a huge difference in terms of grip. As Greg Galt, that is a little bit of a positive sign for him, a little bit of a small goal motivator, you can call it, in the business world, whereas Greg Galt sees a lock up and says, hey, you know, if Josh Rogers is locking up at turn 7, that gives me a glimmer of hope. And they've sort of dropped Ian Ford's quite a little bit here, as Ford's 8 tenths down on the battle for the lead, as Rogers and Greg Galt are about half a second between the both of them. So here's this corner once again, as Rogers goes very wide. You can see Greg Galt takes a slightly tighter line through there, and I think that could be hampering him a little bit. Rogers just seems to widen the line a little bit more on the entrance into Le Mans. Yeah, that's not cutting the track for any viewers knowing. The drivers are allowed to go into that section of the racetrack. You know, this Sebring was a World War II runway or airport or whatever it was called. I don't know what it was, but this could be a very interesting fight come towards the end of the race, because of course it's interesting, but my point is that if Rogers' grip is reducing as the race progresses, we could see the closest Greg Galt has been all race to Josh Rogers, really.
Yeah, that's right. He's just getting ever so close every lap, and I think that was the fastest lap of the race there from Ethan Grigol to 201.9, so that is some pace. That's qualifying speed right now up front, so they are on the limit here, and Rogers is just not skipping away. He lost a couple of tenths, so he lost those little tenths back that he gained the last time by, and just looking back at this battle for 4th and 5th, Sam Sutton is all over the back of Bo Cubis now, and he could definitely start to have a look. Maybe Cubis made a little tyre adjustment and it hasn't helped him, because he has lost a lot of ground to Ford, and he's lost a lot of ground to overall everyone, and Sam Sutton will maybe have a look at the end of this lap, but this battle up front is not going anywhere, as Ethan Grigol is still starting just to slowly close in on the back of Rogers.
Yeah, so Jeff Gauchi as well in P13, who did pit a lap later than Corey Preston, who obviously passed him before that pit stop phase. He's having a little bit of a look here at Corey. So another little fight happening down the order. But Sam Sutton in P5. Is this going to be another dilemma where he just can't make his way past the driver in front? Overtaking not easy today, Jake, and I think that's a good thing because maybe the 1 or 2 overtakes we might see towards the end of the race are going to be probably more exciting if we see 50 of them.
Yeah, that's right. I think this track is it's got a couple of good opportunities, obviously down into turn 7, the hairpin, and turn 10, but I think everywhere else is pretty much follow the leader unless you really have ultimate car speed over the car in front, and it doesn't look like a lot of guys have that today. They're all very close in the limit here as Sam Sutton is right underneath that rear wing of the KSW Paintings FCC Motorsports Commodore here, and he just may be able to get a better run and a better bit of draft down this back straight, Almond Straight, coming into Sunset Bend, but I don't think he's going to have a look around the outside, so he's trying to avoid those bumps on the inside, maybe do a switchback to get the better run down the front straight. He's going to try that as Bo runs a little bit wide, but he didn't get the power down. There's a little bit of bumps in the middle to the exit of the corner, really hurts the drive off the corner, and Sam Sutton's going to have a big lunge down the inside into turn 1. I think Cubas give him a little bit of room. He's going to get it done, but Cubas is going to have maybe an inside run here going down into turn 3. It's on for these two, and Sam Sutton, big defensive move right there, puts the blockers on and held his position there for P4.
It's just too easy for Sam Sutton. 2 braking zones, and Cubas essentially was ultra slow through both of them. So I guess a pass is a pass, but for Cubas, I would have expected at least to block that line into turn 1. Here he goes, fights back though. This is some good stuff, and he earns that P4 away from Sam Sutton. But is he going to have the run on the exit of the corner as he closes the door on Sam Sutton? Ultra tight between the both of them, and you can see on the run down to turn 10, Cubas now makes up for his silliness under the lack of defensive moments, you could say, and now he makes up for it. So good stuff from both these guys. Some great racing.
Yeah, definitely great racing here from these two for 4th and 5th. It may not be for the lead, but they're certainly putting it on now. It was, yeah, good move from Cubas. I wasn't expecting that. He definitely didn't have the pace through the first and last corner, and he just couldn't put the defensive move on, and he let Sutton through, but he managed to just get it nicely down the inside into turn 7 hairpin, got the job done, and now he's just started to open up a couple of car lengths, not as much as I think he'd like to have, as Sam Sutton pushing ultra deep there through turn 15, actually ran a bit wide and clipped the exit curve, which ultimately hurt the car, and he's going to lose that little bit of momentum that he had, and he's just a couple of car lengths now for Cubas, so he's pushed that gap out a little bit after a good run through turn 7, got the job done again. But out in front, Ethan Grigalt and Josh Rogers, who knows what's going on here. These two are just trading laps at the moment, and Rogers, they're actually not dropping Ian Ford off as much as I would have thought. He's still hovering there, and if these two start to battle, it could close up quite quickly.
So I'm afraid, unless Josh Rogers makes a mistake, he will, number 1, win the Ironman Award of the day, and he will, number 2, take the lead of this race, because Greg Galt just has no answer to anything that Josh Rogers has done, good or bad. And right now, I mean, he's still 3/10 behind him on the run out of turn 5. I say that, and this is so close, Greg Galt. Look at this. I'd throw it up, just throw it up the inside into the hairpin. Someone's going to tell him right now just to throw it up the inside here.
Yeah, that's all he needs to do, just throw it down the inside. He's good under brakes, we know that, and he just doesn't. I think he just doesn't have the confidence going into turn 7. He's lost a little bit of ground on the exit. He tries and lines himself up for turn 10, but he's tried to do it a couple of times and it hasn't worked. He's just got no confidence, I think it is, going into turn 7, and he just can't get the move done. So he's sitting behind him again. Oh, a little bit of a right front lock there again from Rogers, maybe picking up that same flat spot from earlier. So he's just dropped a little bit back to Ethan Grigalt, and Ethan's seeing that. He can tell that Rogers is having a little bit of mistakes under braking here, and he could start to threaten and put the nose out and fill up those mirrors, which he's doing now.
Yeah, so he really needs to get in the slipstream more. I think Greg Galt doesn't, and we spoke about this over a few rounds ago, Jake, about how drivers don't really tend to drop into the slipstream too much, and there you go. See, you're going to lose that time under braking for these next corners. Very, very close here, so if he can stick right up to the back of the slipstream, which he does, he's a bit too far back into this final corner, but just scare Rogers a little bit. That's what he needs to do, is Rogers has a little bit of a peek outside the line, so he's that's a smart thing to do, to sort of break the toe. And Greg Galt right now, you say he doesn't think he has the confidence, which in my opinion was true at turn 7. Why? I mean, he's been braking so deep this whole race. There's no reason why Greg Galt shouldn't have thrown it up the inside at 7. Yes, it's a dive bomb and it can result in an incident, but that's just your trust with Josh Rogers not to turn in. And if he doesn't do it, I guess he's just going to have to settle for P2 for this race.
Yeah, that's right. Maybe he's just not right with the car there. I know a couple of corners in this car, you can just feel like you've not got the confidence under brakes. The rear's maybe chirping where you don't want them to, and he's actually really close again. So just throw it down the inside, Ethan. You could get this job done. He's really good under brakes, and let's see if he does it again. If he doesn't, he's definitely not got the confidence down in turn 7. He has a look, but he just doesn't. He just sits behind him again. He tries and lines himself up for the better run going into turn 10. He's done actually a pretty decent job at that, but Rogers once again showing that he can still get the drive off the corner. Ian Ford just sitting there waiting, just posing a little threat in the mirror, just saying, I'm still here, I'm not going anywhere, and I'm going to be here for the rest of the race. So these three cars are going to be battling all the way to the end, and I think Ethan, just no confidence into turn 7, and I think, like you're saying, he could have to settle for P2 if he doesn't make a move there.
Yeah, as Aylward and Hyde also having a battle here for P8 and P9. As Richard Aylward up into that 8th position. So that was on the run into the hairpin at turn 7. It was Hyde really having a look at P8, but Aylward fought back. And now here's Hyde again, side by side between the two. So Aylward could lose P8 once again. He's going to have the traction and the line. You can see that rubbered line. It's starting to grip up as the race progresses. Offline doesn't seem to be working too well in this event. And there you go. Richard Aylward still maintains that 8th position. So that rubbered line is a good little conundrum that the drivers face this race, because can you attempt an overtake on that marbled type of dirty line on the racetrack? So that's where the confidence comes in as well. You talked about before, Jake, is that Greg Galt, maybe he might have the confidence under braking, as I said, but maybe that offline, it just isn't good enough to stop the car in time.
Yeah, it may just be a little bit of playing with the tyres a little bit. You get those marbles on the car and it starts to have a little bit of a understeer moment. You may have locked a brake where you don't want to, so that may be playing in the back of his mind at the moment. But just Hyde and Aylward are going at it at the moment. Also, Gorell and Maris are pretty close up in front of him, but Hyde looks like he had a little bit of a trouble there coming through the final corner and wasn't able to get the drive, so he's just going to have to sit in behind him. But once again, moving up front, this battle again close, only 3/10 at the line, and Ethan's still there, not going to have a look, just sits behind him again, and Rogers really deep under brakes there. I think he had a little swirl and little squiggle under brakes, blocked the rears, got it sideways and had to pick it up where he didn't want to and turned in a bit too early. But it's only lap 22 of 30, so we've still got 9 laps to go, and he goes, Ethan again, deep under brakes. Maybe he's just waiting for the opportune moment to get this position done, because he's just sitting behind him, and maybe he thinks it's too early, because Rogers could just have a straight comeback and just get the job done again.
Yeah, so a lot of dilemmas these guys have to face here today, and there's really, on lap 22 of 30, you're running out of ideas as Greg Galt, incredibly close once again to Rogers at the wrong parts of the racetrack. That's been the story of the race so far. But look at Rogers' line through Le Mans now as well. This is the closest Greg Galt's ever been through Le Mans on Greg Galt. He needs to stay in the slipstream. He needs to attack here into the final corner. Force Rogers offline.
Yeah, that's right. He needs to get right in this slipstream, and he's trying to do that. He's trying to fill out the mirrors as well. He wants to have a little look down the inside, just threaten Rogers, and he's definitely closer now. I think Rogers is starting to challenge with the rears on that car, and it looks like Ethan's just a little bit stronger in this later portions of the race. Ethan running a bit tighter line again, so Rogers is a little bit wider through the middle of that sunset bend through the final corner, and the gap is now down to under 0.2 of a second, so they are close at the moment, and this is where he needs to sort of set himself up here, Ethan. He needs to get a good run through turns 3, 4 and 5 and have a look down into turn 7. This will be the closest he has been in a long time, and if he can just stick the nose under there, he's just got to hope Rogers doesn't turn in and he can get the run. He uses a lot of curb there through turn 4, doesn't use any curve through turn 5, and he's going to try and get a good run. A little bit of a sideways moment there from Rogers, but was able to hold on to it. Just got a little sideways getting on the dirt, but Ethan, I don't know whether he's going to have a look or not. He's still close, but he just doesn't. He just sits in behind again. It's sort of a little bit of a dilemma, like you're saying, and it's sort of troubling to see why isn't he having the move? You know what I mean? We got to figure out what is Ethan doing that we don't know about at the moment, Johnny, because he may be saving something towards that we don't know, but I think he would have made a move by now, knowing Ethan, and he does want to finish on the top step of the podium. He is a racer, and everyone wants that.
No, you're right. I don't think he's saving anything, because right now he'd be frustrated that he cannot buy a break for himself. He just cannot buy a pass. If a pass costed $10 and Grid Gold was right now, I'd buy it if I was him. Problem is though, that opportunity, there's no pass on the market for him to buy it, and I'm trying to think, you know, for the first time in my life in the commentary booth, I don't know what to do, because I've literally tried everything. He can't get the traction out of the corners. He can't brake into turn 7. He's too slow. But then he passed into turn 10 under braking. I don't know whether his setup or his style. He needs to try something different here.
Yeah, he needs to try something different. He needs to try it fast too. He will start to run out of laps as it's coming on to start lap 24 of 30. So he's starting to wind down these laps here, Josh Rogers is, and Rogers has led all the laps except for one, which has gone to Ian Ford. So I don't know. Ethan lost a little bit of time last lap, and he's just starting to drop off the back a little bit, but he's still there. Massive rear lock there from Rogers, and he's run wide. The first big mistake there under pressure. Ethan on the inside into turn 5. He's going to hold it there. Rogers is still there on the outside. A little bit of contact, and he's fallen in behind him. That was the position where Ethan could have taken P1, and he hasn't taken it. He needs to have a look down here into turn 7. Rogers is right on the back foot now as Rogers goes defensive. Rogers knows a little bit of a rear brake locking going into turn 3, and it's now put this battle right into the hands of Ethan Grigol.
So that's the first time this race that Grigol forced Rogers on the defensive into turn 7, although he wasn't close enough. If it wasn't for that little tap of contact, I think he could have made a pass. Oh, that was a good opportunity to throw it up the inside and get into here. He just can't buy a break. I was about to say before, you should just tell Grigol, you had a good race, bring it in. But the fact that Rogers just made a mistake, I think he's still got an opportunity here. I'm not going to be politically correct about it, but I'm going to be positive about it and say that Grigol can still... Now he just needs to play with Rogers' mind. That's the last thing he can do to attempt to pass. And because Rogers is an Iron Man in the V8 Supercar, it's going to be very, very tough to do that indeed.
Yeah, these two are at the top of their game at the moment. We all know that, and Ethan Grigol, 4-time champion. Josh Rogers is just starting to put all his chips together, and he looks like he's having a good championship run this season. And Ethan, yeah, definitely cracked that little bit of a cookie there. He's just cracked it, and whether Ethan can make a position up now, he's all over the back under brakes into the final corner, Sunset Bend here. He needs to get the drive down the front straight. He needs to set himself up. He may even have a look going into turn 3, and Rogers out sideways right there, coming off the final corner. This could be Ethan, could have a look down into turn 1. We haven't seen him have a look, and he sits behind him again. So Ethan looks like he's really starting to apply the pressure to Rogers. Rogers may be locking the rears. We'll have a little bit of a brake bias adjustment, maybe an anti-roll bar as well, and try and settle that rear end of that Ford Falcon down, because it looks like it's not handling its tyres.
Yeah, so before around this stage of the lap where Rogers made that mistake, I don't know if it was like a rear lockup or a double downshift, I don't know what it was, but it was a huge mistake. And this time around, I don't know if that's hampered Rogers' rhythm or his tyres, but it's really forced Grigol to attack here. Rogers goes extremely deep under braking. I think Grigol can get a great run out of here into turn 7. Look at him, give him a tap as well. This is incredibly close between the leaders.
Yeah, it hasn't been this close or a raise. He's right underneath that rear wing now. He could have a look going into turn 10. We know how strong he is under brakes here, and he does. He has a little look. He's going to fill up the mirrors, but doesn't get it done. Rogers very late in the brakes, but misses the apex again. So I think Rogers is trying to fiddle around with the anti-roll bars, trying to settle that rear end of that Ford Falcon down, because he needs to do that. He needs to get the rear end settled. A couple of times he's lost the rear end. And back to your point, Johnny, he has had a couple of double downshift problems earlier on, especially last season he had a lot of them, and this season he could be doing the same thing again as Ethan Grigol. He's just starting to harass the back of that Ford Falcon, and he could have a look through here. He needs to get the run through Le Mans and get the car nice and straight going down Allman Straight and have a look into that final corner. He definitely looks like he's got the traction and the ultimate grip out there at the moment.
But that was Rogers, with some smart defensive driving, he didn't really jink anywhere. He just sort of moved to the right a little bit under braking for turn 10, and it sort of confused Grigault whether or not he was going defensive or not. At the same time, Rogers moved left under braking, and Grigault just decided to attack too late, and that gave Rogers the ideal line. It forced Grigault offline without an attempt at a passing move, without getting that nose alongside Josh Rogers. He's going to do that again, and I think Grigault needs to be aggressive, okay? So this is what he needs to do. No matter what Rogers does into turn 10, Grigault needs to throw it up the inside, and Josh Rogers needs to be aware that Grigault is going to do exactly that.
Yeah, that's right. He needs to just throw it down there right now. We've got 5 laps to go here, and Ethan looks very close coming through turns 4 and 5 here. He could easily have a look going down into this hairpin. He's got the good drive there again out of turn 5. We can't forget Ian Ford behind him as well. He's only 1.7 back in the MPMS Evolution Racing Australia Commodore. He could have a look as here comes Ethan. He's going to have a little look, just filling up the mirrors of Rogers. So maybe he wanted to make him have a little bit of defensive run there. He locked the right front again, so he's still locking that right front brake for Rogers. So he must be playing with the brake bias. He's locked the rears or maybe a double downshift, but he's done that a couple of times, and he's locked the right front as Ethan again. He's on the look down into turn 10. He's got the car far enough up, trying to force him a little bit wide there was Ethan, but he couldn't get it done. Rogers is so strong coming off that corner that he can just hold his position, as Ethan may have another look going into turn 13. I'd think better of that, but he sticks in behind him and he's going to have another run. But look who's starting to range up on the back, and that's Ian Ford.
Yeah, but I don't know if Ian Ford can really do anything about it, and if he does, that'll be pretty embarrassing for Grigault. But nevertheless, Grigault has had a thrilling race, and utmost incredible race from his point of view. He just couldn't break the Iron Man that was Josh Rogers. I think Ford's lamenting that early mistake, remember, when he went onto the grass, because he could have been much closer to these guys had he not made that mistake. And let's say if Ford jumped these guys in the pit phase, if he put it maybe a lap earlier than he did, that could have been interesting too, to see if Ian Ford could have maintained his pace on an older set of tyres.
Yeah, that's right. It would have been interesting to see whether he could have done that. And it's happened now, and he's stuck behind them, so we don't get that little bit of a pleasure wondering what would have happened if he was in front of him. But only 2:10.272 at the line between Josh Rogers and Ethan Grigault, as Ian Ford's now only 1.1 seconds behind the leader, and a little bit sideways from both of them. Just clipping the grass on the exit of turn 1 was Rogers and Grigault. So let's see what Ethan does here. He had a look going into turn 7. It's his first big sort of look, and he may have another one. Once again, good drive from both of these two coming out there. So Ethan may just sit in behind him again, but Rogers will go defensive, maybe not. So they're just playing a little bit of cat and mouse game here as the laps wind down, and just trying to figure out where they've got to go. But Ethan sat behind him enough to figure out where he can make this passing opportunity. He's done it enough times coming down into turn 10. And whether he can do it again, it's going to be interesting to see.
So you've got 17 corners on this racetrack. I think right now, if Grigault was trying to think which corners he could pass at, I'd assume he'd think he could pass at 17 corners. That's the approach he needs to have. Because right now, here they go under braking for Tower, turn 13. It's just, I don't know what to say. I know I'm a commentator, but I actually feel as depressed right now as Ethan Grigault would be after this event. I'll tell you what though, it's been a fun little drive for him as well. The difficult point in this V8 Supercar is that you can get really close to the guy in front, but you just seem to get traction at the same time as as the driver in front or before the driver behind. It's just a confusing sort of situation as to how you're supposed to attempt to move, and the way these corner sequences work out at Sebring, it just hasn't benefited Ethan Grigault and his setup and his driving style today. And they did pit at the same time, so maybe you can argue that Grigault could have waited later, but then he would have been jumped by Ian Ford. So I think Ethan Grigault's done everything he can. Josh Rogers has had an amazing race. I think they should just bring it in with a couple laps remaining, and hats off to these guys right here. It's been amazing to watch.
Oh, it's been an amazing race. Yeah, it's sort of coming down to that point where it's like, why hasn't anyone changed up front? Maybe the track just isn't well suited to the V8. Some people have their decisions whether it does or doesn't, but it looks like these traction zones coming off the corners aren't promoting what we call as passing opportunities. Just right up behind someone, you just can't get the benefit from being a little bit better on the acceleration. As Ethan just having a little look. Josh Rogers is a little bit defensive there, and he runs a bit wide on the exit. So Ethan Gritgold looks like he has a better run, and he could have another look going down into turn 10, but he's definitely closer. He could definitely throw it down the inside here, and he does that. Oh, very late. That was unexpected, and he's given him a little bit of the door. So he's pushed Josh Rogers off the track, and is he going to readdress that? If he does, look who it's going to let through, and that's going to be Ian Ford. So I don't know whether Ethan's going to let him back through, but that's wow, he's thrown it down the inside. He was well enough up there, given the door to Rogers. Rogers runs off again. So Ethan Gritgold up into P1, Ian Ford up into P2.
But do they have damage? That's the question, because Rogers now cannot control his car, and Gritgold's trying to swerve as much as he can. So this damage for both of them, which it could be a little bit of suspension damage from that tap, it could allow Ian Ford to win this race. I did not expect that move right there. A little bit of contact too, and now Josh Rogers, who has driven an amazing race, Ian Ford is going to take the win.
Yeah, as Ethan Gritgold is doing the sportsmanship thing, he's going to drop behind Josh Rogers. I wonder whether they just hit each other on the right front wheels or on the left front on Ethan Gritgold's and the right front on Josh Rogers, and maybe bent the steering arms. It's easy to do that in this car. They are sort of very fragile. You don't think of it, but they can easily bend a steering arm. You can easily get a little bit of left hand down or right hand down. And look who's benefited from this, and that is Ian Ford. He is now 2 seconds to the good. There are only 2 laps to the home, so Ian Ford, if he can run this consistent pace, he may be able to pick up an unexpected victory here.
Yeah, so, I mean, after such a great race from Ethan Gritgold, we did ask for it to be aggressive, but I think that the contact and the damage as a result wasn't the way we wanted the pass to happen. I don't think Gritgold was making the pass there. I think he just went way too deep under braking, decided to turn it into a pass, because if he didn't, he would have just went straight into the back of Josh Rogers and forced him out of the racetrack or off the racetrack. And it's just, a small mistake there. In the end, Ian Ford really gets this is the Australian thing to say, Jake, he gets the Stephen Bradbury win, you could say.
Yeah, that you can, and he's got it right now, and that's going to help his championship a little bit with Josh Rogers. Those two are battling for this title at the moment. Ethan Gritgold hasn't been around all the races, so he hasn't picked up as many championship points as he'd like at this stage of the championship. So Ian Ford just, picked up what could have been an unexpected result. And yeah, I think Ethan was very late on the brakes there. He's been braking very good into turn 10, and he just made a little bit of a mistake. And I think, going down the inside, he wasn't expecting to make it into a pass. He did that, but I don't know, the contact, it was still well enough down the inside, but definitely was very late on the brake, so it could go either way. I think it's just a racing incident. It's coming down to the later laps. He made a mistake, got in the door. We let him back pass, so albeit good sportsmanship from Ethan Gritgold to let Josh Rogers back pass, but the laps were winding down. Who knows, we'll have to maybe have a word with him if he comes up and wants to have a chat after the race, but definitely interesting between those two.
Well, the way that, as Ian Ford's going to begin the final lap of the event, the way that an incident like that can be judged is if Gritgold has any part of the front end of his car alongside Josh Rogers before the turning point to the corner. So before Josh Rogers steers into the corner, then it should literally be a legal room or a racing incident, a legal move, sorry, or a racing incident. But if Josh Rogers is turning into the corner and Gritgold has got no part of his car alongside Rogers, this is what the rules say, by the way, in the iRacing rules. So this is it's something that can be judged based on personal opinion, but really based on the rules. I really think Gritgold, as you said, it has to be a racing incident, because as deep as he went on the braking and as much as it really was his fault, you could say, I think it still is a racing incident. He did give a lot of room to Josh Rogers around the outside, but Rogers really, he's not going to stop to 0 kilometers an hour and just let Gritgold pass. So Rogers had all right to be there. Anyway, nevertheless, it's been an amazing race, and Ian Ford will come home in the first position, hopefully, if he can make his way past these lap cars here.
Yeah, first time we've seen some lap cars in this race, but yeah, it's still been an amazing race, albeit for a little bit of contact between those two. May have to have a look at that one after the race and see how far he was after it, but definitely we'll see whether he was far enough up. He did throw it down the inside. He would have had his nose somewhere up alongside before Rogers turned in, but obviously he was going way too deep, so it locked it and put it in. I think definitely a racing incident. Obviously a little bit swing toward Ethan Grigol's fault, but that's what happens in racing. You're going to do it. But let's go on board with Ian Ford coming down Allman Straight. He's going to have a lap car in front of him, which is Matt Jones for SDC Motorsports. He'll most likely move out of the way, but he's going to come around and down into Sunset Bend for the final time here at Sebring for round 5 of the official V8 Supercar Championship Series. It's been an unexpected win for Ian Ford for ERA and MPMS Racing Simulators. They're going to come across the line in P1. Very unexpected, great drive there from Ian, just sat out and got it done. And Josh Rogers is going to finish second ahead of Ethan Grigol. And then Bo Cubis was able to hold on to P4 in front of Sam Sutton. So great racing there. That was interesting, Johnny, and some of these guys started to come across the line. We'll see what everyone has to say after the race.
Yeah, it'll be a heated one. Sure, the fans will hate on Ian Ford like they always do. I'm pretty sure he did nothing wrong this race, and he didn't put any feet wrong, and he ended up winning as a result of other people's mistakes. He still had some great pace out there. Don't forget, he was within a second of the leaders despite the incident. So it's key. If he was 2-3 seconds behind and they had that little clash, I don't know if he would have been able to get his nose in front to take the lead. But a great race from Ian Ford, as George Maris is absolutely delighted with P7 right now. Never seen someone so happy with a mid-top 10 result, but hats off to him anyway. If he's pleased with that, I'm pleased for him.
Yeah, it's been his first race back in a long time for ANZ, so it's good to see him up there as Jeff Gauci coming across out of the final corner now for P12 for ERA, so he's done a good drive there down the back. Dale Nish and Corey Preston finishing up both back here for 6 boosts. I don't think those two will be either pleased with that race, as I think Corey Preston just hit the fence in the final corner, so unsure as to what has happened there, but he's going to finish down there as Matt Jones. I think he's the only one who hasn't come across the line. Yeah, I think as Matt Jones is just coming across, he's a long way back here, but we will run through the final results here for round 5 of the championship. So Ian Ford, unexpected win here, and he's taken it today. Josh Rogers is going to finish second with Ethan Grigol rounding out the podium. Bo Cubis from 4th with Sam Sutton 5th. Paul Garrell in 6th. Maris, good result in 7th, I will say. Jason Hyde from 12th to 8th. Richard Elwood in 9th. Brenton Hobson is in P10, good result there. Todd Parks started 11th, finished 11th, can't complain with that. Jeff Gauci in 12th. Dale Nish in 13th with Matt Jones in 14th. Corey Preston, mistake at the end there, finishing a lap down. Gabriel Perez, first time a lap down as well in 16th, and the rest of the cars finishing with DNFs, and Cooper Murray did not start the race, so unfortunate for those guys. But yeah, Ian Ford, Johnny, unexpected victory, and he's going to take it. It's going to help his championship.
Yeah, why not? Take any victory as it comes, and he didn't put a foot wrong this race. Actually, I say that. He made a couple of mistakes, but he did make his way back up through the order. He was at P5 after that early mistake, so goes to show, never give up, and always try and fight for the victory as he comes in for an interview right about now.
Yeah, let's bring him up here. Ian Ford, well done on a very unexpected victory today here at Sebring. Just sort of fell into your place there right at the end, and a good result at the end of it. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was a bit of a shock, seeing both of them come together and wobble off the road. But you know, that was one of the hardest races I've done in ages. Started off pole, had the bars still set for quali trim, so like for a light fuel load, and the car just felt like a pig for the first couple of laps. Like you saw, I probably went off the road about 5 or 6 times, like completely went sideways in front of Sammy Sutton there, and thought I pretty much did everything I could to throw away this race, and pretty much pitted as early as I could, took bare minimum of fuel and literally ran out on the line there. And just made sure I wasn't in traffic, didn't undercut anyone, tried to get the undercut on as many people as possible, and then absolutely threw the car as hard as it could and hoped the tyres didn't explode, and can't believe to come out of that one with the win.
Yeah, it was a great result, and you head now towards Montreal, which is a interesting track for the V8. Those curb hops can suck in this car, so how are you guys going to try and minimize that next week?
I think we're just going to concentrate on, getting our driving lines right first and working on the car later on, because I think we've got a pretty good baseline around there, but as we saw at the end of last season, it's like we're pretty much, down in the squalors of the top 10, so hopefully we sort it out, get a bit of, just try and learn a bit more about driving this car at the limit over those curbs, and hopefully I can survive some of the slowdowns to next Monday night.
Yeah, well done again. It's going to be interesting next week, but congratulations, Ian, on a well-deserved win. You definitely had the pace to keep up there. You were in the right position at the right time. So anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
MPMS Racing Simulators, that they've come aboard and sponsored this awesome car. I think this is the first time we've actually put it in victory lane in the main split, so that's always quite nice. And Maverick Welding for just hanging on and doing what they do with the team, and yeah, everyone else with the team that's worked on the setup this week and actually made this car pretty competitive compared to what it was on Tuesday night last week.
Yeah, well done, Ian. So well done to the whole team at ERA. Good drive there from Ian Ford, and I think that he's going to end us for today, Hugo. And well done, thank you for joining us today here for round 5 action of Sebring International Raceway for the official V8 Supercar Championship Series. Director of Hugo Louise once again did an amazing job with the cameras, and Johnny Simon for joining me in the box. And we will see you next week for 35 laps around the glorious Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Thank you.